In the last video we were talking about our view, and we used this lang load inside our view in order to load in our language class. And then further down we used this lang line to load in the particular line that we wanted from the language file. Here we're referencing the name_value index, and here the message value index. So let's take a look at where those are coming from. Underneath my application folder I have a language folder, and inside the language folder there's two other folders, which is the English folder and the French folder. And inside the English one I have a file called contact_form_English_lang.php, and the French one is similar. So the difference between the file name and what we did right here is on the file name you need to add _lang at the end for it to work. So we can take a look at what's happening inside that file, and let's just open it up right here. And here you see we're just setting the different indexes of the lang array. So here lang name is set to a value, lang message is set to a value, and we have all the English values right here. And then if we go over to the one in the French folder, you'll see that we have the same array and the same indexes, but these are set to their French equivalents. So we can talk about our create post function right here. The first thing we're doing is we're loading in the form validation library, and what we're doing after that is we're loading in our model, and our model is called model message. And when someone sends us a message, what we're going to do is we're going to store their name and their message and their timestamp into a database. After that we have our form validation rules, and let's just make this a bit smaller here so we can see it all. And for the text input with the name of sender name, basically we have its human readable value here, just name, and then we're setting the rules for that input, which is it's a required field. The maximum length is 50 characters, and that matches up with what we did in our database when we set that field as a varchar with a maximum of 50 characters. So what we're doing here is we're ensuring that we're not storing something into our database that's bigger than the field can handle. So this matches up with what we did in our database. And we have XSS clean here that makes sure there's no SQL injection going into our database. And then we also have alpha dash here. That means their name can only have letters or numbers or a dash in it. Okay? And there's other options you can choose. They're all on CodeIgniter's documentation. And we also have form validation for the sender message, and that's similar. It has a minimum length of 10, so it must be at least 10 characters. And we did the same validation on the client side with JavaScript. So this just makes our application a lot stronger because on the server side we're requiring it to be at least 10 characters, and also on the client side, and that just makes things a bit more secure. And also XSS clean for that, because that is one of those inputs that they can put text into and potentially put an SQL injection. The next thing we have is if this form validation run is equal to false. So here we're invoking a function, and if one of these didn't check out, then this function invocation right here is going to return false. So if false is equal to false, then we're just going to load in our view again, and we're going to send them back to the contact form and make them fill it out again. Okay? But if this was true, then what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to our else block right here, and then we're going to check what was the language they posted. So on the contact form here, if this was set to English, then what we're doing here is we're going to post that it was English, and we saw that in our view right here. So we have the select, the name is language, and these are the options. So this is going to post whether that select was set to English or French, and we're just getting that value. And then what we're doing is we're setting their session in their user data. We're setting the language to English, and if it was French, then we're setting it to French. And we can see that inside our database. Here we have the different sessions, and if I open this up to look at it, we'll see that I set the language to English. And so that gets stored in the database in their session, and we can keep moving along here. So the next thing I'm doing is just creating the data array, and data sender right here, this is set to this input post in the sender name, and then we're getting their message here and then storing it as a data message. So when you're accessing post data in CodeIgniter, you'll use this syntax right here, this input post, and then pass in the name of the input field here, the name of the text area, and then we're storing that inside our data array right here, and then we're also setting that into these two variables, sender and message, because those are a little bit easier to work with. And after that, we are going to do some stuff with our model. So here we are going to access our model, and we have this model message, and then we are invoking the insert message method of the model, and we're passing that sender and message. So this is the only information we need to pass to our model in order to store that in a database, basically their name and their message. And we're also going to store the timestamp in the database, but we don't need to pass that in because the database can get that on its own. So let's open up our model here, and inside our model we have class model message extend CI model, our constructor function, and then here we have our function insert message, and that takes the name and the message. And inside our data array here we have an associative array, and name is set to sender and message is set to the message that was passed into it. And then in order to insert into your database in CodeIgniter, all you have to do is this db insert, and this is the table name that we're sending it to, so we're going to store it in the messages table. And then here in the second parameter we pass in our associative array. So the way this works is the name field of our table, we're going to store sender in there. In the message field of our database, we're going to store the message in there. And if we look at the database, you'll see that that's how it is. So let's go to structure right here, and let's go to messages, structure again, and you'll see here I have name and message, and that matches up right here with our associative array, name, message, and what do we want to store in those different fields. And then we just pass in that associative array as our second parameter here. Now in CodeIgniter, if it was a successful insertion into the database, then it's going to return true, and if it wasn't successful, then it's going to return false. So whatever we get from that, we're just storing that right here inside inserted, and then this function is just going to return inserted. So this is going to return true or false whether it was inserted or not. So we can go back to our controller right now. So if inserted is set to true, then what we're going to do is we're going to load this view, which is view message sent, and basically what that contains is just a success message for them, that the message was successfully sent. So, and we can see that right here, and click send, and thank you, your message has been sent. Let's take a quick look at that. And here you can see we're loading in our language class again. So this lang load contact underscore form underscore English, and yeah, this is also going to be English right here. Well, depending on whatever's in their session. So if it's French, then this is going to load in the French language class for them. And if they're English, it's going to load in the English class. And then here we just echoing out, the message sent one. And if we look inside the English language, you'll see right here, thank you, your message has been sent.